Hey, everybody! It's the the. Let me try that again. Hey, everybody! It's the T.O.A Podcast, and I'm your host Onvermel, back at it again. Today, I am gathered here with my many brothers,
Around
two of them, that
seven
is.
something.
To my left, we have Zakta. Zakta, would you like to say hi to the 10 people?
Hello there.
And to my right, we have Ek. Ek, would you like to say hi to the maybe more than 10 people?
Talk to your friends, talk to your family, get them to listen to this.
If you
So
if your
us.
families disown you, we are not liable. However, wait, hold on. Like half the people listening is our family.
So we're just telling each other to
So yeah, we're
listen.
just telling each other to
We
listen.
don't have friends.
So, gentlemen, today I would like to bring up a topic that we kind of touched on with the collecting video a little bit, or collectibles video is more so expensive Lego parts and/or expensive Lego. Like, what are what are you willing personally to spend on either like a minifig, a part, or even said like what caps out and like what sort of Lego are you willing to spend extra amount of money on? And just kind of like an idea because like obviously since we were younger and now like our idea of what counts as an expensive Lego piece is drastically changed because back in the day it was like a $5 piece. Oh my gosh, that's super expensive. Now it's like some piece like $5. That's a steal of a deal. Put that right on $5. That's nothing. That's nothing. Wait, you look like you want to say something.
It's just funny you should say this because while technically I don't necessarily spend too much on a solid part, but if I have a use for it, like a concrete one panel comic use for this piece, I could justify it. I was going to buy Space Lockup Isolation Base for like the 150 or $200 you would get for it. Fortunately, I got a cheaper one from Gerard, but I was like willing to spend that money for a one comic appearance.
That is rather impressive. I don't know how many sets I'd actually spend $200 on because like the thing about it is like a lot of used sets. I'm not sure if I'd actually spend $200 on like almost any set. Like the only set right now I could think of that I'd actually be willing to spend $200 on is probably the Dragon Fortress from Orient Expedition because like I think you can get it cheaper than 200 maybe, but like that's like one of the few sets I can look at and go, yeah, I'd spend $200 on that.
Good choice. I mean, I'm very on the fringe of spending $300 for Achu's Temple, so I see where you're coming from, mate.
And
I
even
still
just
have to
like
place a large
even just
card.
like with like new sets coming out, like often it's like, oh, there's a $300 mansion. Ah, it's too much for me. A $200 blacksmith shop? Okay, you sold me. $200 definitely does seem to be the limit of what I'm willing to spend on a set for the most part because $200 is the most I've spent on a set. Like I technically own a set that is retail more than 200 is the Mac Anthem, but I got that for like 190 or it was just 200. And then I bought two sets that are $200. One I got for $200. The other one I got for $100 because it was on like a really good deal. That being the blacksmith shop and the Rexels here from the Lego Movie 2, which by the way, it's a really nice set, and I swear I did not steal its design. I swear, I swear.
I've bought upwards of 10 sets for retail over $200 and a handful of used sets for over $200.
Mostly books.
I mean, you also did buy like essentially the Message and base recently for like 250, I think.
Somewhere in that neck of the woods?
Yeah, so it's like definitely when it comes down to sets, like $200 does seem to be the general cap. But for sets, it's a lot harder to gauge what's worth it because a lot of times the sets that are worth 200, often a lot of the pieces are like expensive on their own right. So, it's like, well, you're getting all these extra stuff, and it's just a cool model. So, sorry, everybody, except for that one
We'll
person.
bleep that.
David, that one was for you. But, um, you know, basically, it's like for a set, like you can get more out of it for $200. Where I would say Lego starts getting really ridiculous sometimes is when it starts coming down to individual parts. Because specifically, because I have bought a fair bit of classic space parts, such as like slopes or bricks with logos or trans yellow, and needless to say, sometimes they do get just a little expensive.
The demand is very high for some pieces.
I mean, despite there being like a lot on brick, like a lot on the market, the demand is just high enough that the prices are there.
I mean, I've learned that $30 is a price I'll pay for a green mask I don't own, even though I had no use for it.
Are you talking about the misprint one?
Yep,
Uh,
the
see,
Ruru.
And like for Bionicle is where this gets really, really bad because like at least with system, I think the most I've spent for like a system part, I think is maybe like $15. I don't know if I've ever broken 20 on something that isn't Bionicle. Because like the most expensive stuff I bought for system that I can think of is either like minifig parts, typically the most expensive things I can buy, and I honestly don't remember anything breaking $10 to be honest, but I'm sure I have. I bought him some minifigs that are like I bought Greedo for I think it was like $30 to $40. Pretty good deal on the original Greedo from 2003. But when you get to Bionicle for, pricey stuff, well, as I mentioned, the collecting podcast of like collectibles for Bionicle, well, the Krata collection, and I really just ordered some more on where they were on average $6 a piece, and I got like 20 some of them.
I also ordered Crata that I spent more money on than I would have probably even a year ago. I wouldn't have spent half this money a year ago.
Yeah, we will not disclose how much that ended up being.
Yeah, same here.
So, but but it's like okay, $6 a piece. Okay, that's not too bad. Where it does get really bad is when you start looking at certain masks that me and Eck want to get, where it's like, okay, well, this mask's only $100, and I'm constantly thinking, I should really pick that up before it gets more expensive.
Or before I decide to
Where
buy it, just lord it over
where I would
me.
say even like a year ago, I never would have spent $100 on something like that. But I'm like, I mean, I have spent $70 on a mask, but that is the most I've spent. I was waiting for that to get cheaper, but even then and that was like a more sought after mask.
I'm currently looking at prices of gold Ignikas on Bricklink, and the cheapest one going was is $180. That's Canadian dollars, and the set retailed for 65-ish dollars. It's an insane amount what this mask is going for.
Weird thing, but yeah, but compared to some of the other prices that mask's going for, that's a cheap one. So it's like definitely for when it comes down to Bongo collectible parts, we are also willing to spend more than system. But in system, is there any parts that you guys like, or like particularly like parts from specific themes that you're willing to spend a little bit more because of where it's from?
There's a red trapdoor piece that I'd be willing to dump some money on, but not that much money. But Bricklink just, they don't pop up like ever these days.
Or if they do, they're gone right away.
I don't really buy parts, like just generic parts. Like I'll spend like $5-10 on like a Blacktron part, which I did once, but I'm usually like the minifig guy. There's a time I would like if a buck for a single hairpiece, no, but now I'll gladly drop two to even maybe $5 for a single hairpiece. And minifigs, I'll gladly spend 10-15 bucks if I want or have a use for this fig. But
Hmm.
parts, I don't buy parts, so it's usually just generic bricks. So it comes down to how much am I willing to spend on generic bricks.
See, there's some parts where I will fully understand, okay, I'm willing to spend a lot of this because, like Classic Space, I was saying earlier, I am very much willing to spend a little bit extra because I understand, like, not only because they're this much older, there is, like, well, most of them on the market aren't very good condition, so you get one that's a little bit better condition or just getting them aren't faded. Like, I understand how old they're on the demand. Like, I understand why the price there. However, the most overpriced part I bought, and I'm not talking about like just pure expensive. I mean like part that's like was a fair bit of money, but was like one of the most useless parts ever. Was a 1x6 flat Technic Red lift arm. Now there will be the picture on screen for those listening, so you know what I'm talking about. Now this part, maybe you're saying, oh, maybe it only came in one set. No, maybe it just came in like two sets, maybe really big sets. Not quite. No, it came in like six sets. Some of them Ferrari, one's a Bionicle, but I think I spent $7 on it, and that was the cheapest one for that little piece. $7 to complete my Bay Rag set, and it's one of those pieces where I still look back and go, that was a lot of money. And like I'm trying to piece together Jalon Gaku, and there are two orange flat lift arms that are also in that same boat of being really expensive. Now that piece only came in two sets, but it's not like a rare it's not like a really like high profile piece where it's like, oh, it's got the classic space symbol, or oh, it's in the turquoise, or not even turquoise, like chrome. It's just a red lift arm and like the orange. So it's like, yes, the only reason why I'd ever spend that much money on a single piece that's that mundane is just because I am a collector who wants to have a perfect collection of sets. So I'm not going to be like, well, if one piece is missing, so be it. I'm like, no, 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 no. I'm getting this piece. I make sure this is complete. I'm not going to let that go by the wayside. No, it doesn't. It does not work like that ever. But that's definitely, I would say, the most expensive piece that I remember buying and just going, why?
I've spent some money on some larger, more specialized pieces and like big trans neon green panels.
Yeah, but but that feels like it's a little bit more worth because not only is the piece larger, so at least it's like, okay, it's big and transparent. That already right there looks like it should be worth a little bit more. Then you think about it, it only comes in one set, which is a big, high profile set. And then you realize just it's a very sought after piece, which people typically want in fours.
Or at least two.
So twos or fours when it only came in one. So something like that makes sense. And there's like even other parts like similar to that.
Even just the corner panel from the RoboForce set that has two of. Those aren't that cheap on Bricklink anymore.
Well,
I spent $12 on one and $10 on another or something like that.
See, I look at that and I'm like, I'm not sure if I'd spend that much on it just because I like I said, if I had a very, very specific use that I built a mock and I was like, it needs this in trans neon green, it needs this, then I'd be like, okay, then I dish out the cash. But that's definitely one of those pieces where I definitely would hold back. Some other things I have spent a fair bit of money on is non-released product parts. Now, what I'm talking about this is in 2004, Lego had a castle theme, and there were supposed to be some poly bags of essentially soldiers to the different factions of the knights from Knight's Kingdom, and they were basically printed torsos and like unique colored helmets and weapons, but only technically Jaco and Vladek's polybags were ever released. The Raska's polybag was some at least was more out there, like people were able to see it. But the Danju one, I remember at one point there was a picture of the fig on Bricklink, and that was like it. But I'd been searching for those printed torsos for a long time. Same with the helmets. And I ended up
Searching
finally
is a strong
getting
word.
some. Like, I actually now have 2 helmets,
You
3.
stumbled upon them by accident.
Yes, very much by accident, which was a beautiful, beautiful accident. Just like my non-existent children. Oh, that was
I'm just gonna veer this away.
But
Yeah.
no, I'm gonna finish that. But no, basically I'd gone these like purple parts. I think the torsos, looking up, were actually decently cheap. They were only like I think $4 a torso, just under. They weren't bad actually. The axes, the halberds, I believe I spent about $7 on each one. They were under $10. However, the helmets. Now, I got my original helmets for closer to $20 a piece.
I think we spent 22 on these.
Well, I got my helmets first. You got just a purple one. I got a red one that last second time because I already had the helmets from a different site, and I think even then I spent like a good $17 on them. So again, now those may not be necessarily a collecting thing, but as we probably have gathered from one of these, I love purple. These figs were like something I like the holy grail of trying to hunt down, and I managed to finally get all the parts of them. And I was like, you know what? I am willing to dish out the dough. And now that I have 2 essentially copies of that fig, I thought I'd dish out much more money on one of those helmets because I'm like, Danju soldiers work perfectly fine in Blay helmets, stickers works fine. I'm like, I don't really need more. I mean, nowadays I might be more willing to spend that money just because I've gone more accustomed to spending higher amounts of money on single parts. But uncle, I'm looking at you for this. I'm looking at you. But again, that shows that minifigs, I'm willing to spend a little more. And because it was purple, obviously I'm going to spend. And like I've spent, I think several bucks like on a single violet pair of pants because there's a different shade of purple that's like slightly different that I wanted, but it only came in like one set. So I spent I think about $5 on a pair of those, something like that. But and like, but the worst thing is though is when you want a piece and on Bricklink it's expensive, but the only reason why the piece is expensive, even if it's not that rare, is association with a really high profile set. Key example for this is one of the Bionicle sets, Titans from 2004. Kreka has this white hose pipe piece for his eye. Now you would think, and that came in a couple sets, 2 of them. Okay. Now there was different variations of that pipe in white from older ones, so they're not like white pipes are super rare. I wouldn't even say they're even super sought after, technically. And Kreka was not a very loved set, so it's not like people are dying to make Krekas. So you would think, okay, this piece probably isn't maybe worth maybe a couple bucks because it wasn't very common. No, I believe the piece is worth close to $20. Eck is giving me the nod because he's the one who's looking at. Now the reason for this, because the only other set to use that specific mold of it was Market Street. Now Market Street is a modular set that was designed by a fan that basically Lego put out, and it used about 4 of them. Now, also a lot of people I think like to recreate Market Street or just use that same design. I'm not sure exactly why, but it became a very high. Market Street put that piece on the general public's, put it on the map, so everybody's associated with Market Street, which was a high-profile set and hard to, and is like quite expensive now these days. So because that piece is associated with Market Street, it's expensive, despite the fact that Krek is not. And there's other pieces like this, I believe, that come from like the Super Star Destroyer and the Imperial Flag, or the Imperial Flagship, like a lot of parts that, because I believe the brown like short antenna before it come out on much newer sets, it was kind of an expensive piece as well because it only came in like a couple sets.
Well, there's some dark brown inverted slopes that only come with 3 sets. One of these sets being the Imperial Flagship, which uses quite like 16 of them. The other 2 sets only use like 2 or something. There might be 5 sets. I can't remember. But there's not many sets, but this piece starts at like $1 or $2 a piece.
And probably climbs pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Now, parts like that, I'll typically not spend a lot of money on. Like, despite the fact I would like it, is just like, I don't have a reason. But I'm annoyed that certain parts are just expensive by association alone. Like, there's like not much other rhyme or reason why a part would be expensive. Specifically those orange lift arms. Now, maybe there's something in the Technic community where they really, really like orange lift arms that I am unaware of. Or something else came along. But like the expensive by association kind of situation is very, very, very annoying when you want to build one of the sets that isn't the high profile set, but just so happens to have that one piece from that one set, and you just kind of sit there going, do I want to dish out $20 for a single piece? Or just have the set forever incomplete? And or even just like trying to build a set that is rare and has unique parts is annoying because as you were mentioning the red trapdoor, Ek, okay, no one's going out on their way to buy red trapdoors for mocks. It isn't a part that people want to mock with, but because the set was rare and the part only came with that set, it then becomes uncommon. And then, people either this isn't enough because everyone wants to build a set, or people just gobble them up because they see it as a good deal. And now that what's left is all the expensive ones. And it's just kind of a... And like Lego on a whole is just expensive. Like even just trying to get like bulk brick, the most basic parts
You're looking at 5
are
to 10
expensive.
cents a part.
The only thing, if you want to get cheap Lego, the parts you can get are tires and wheels probably. Those things don't cost a whole... Actually, no, even then some wheels are expensive.
And you probably already have an abundance of tires.
Tires. You want expensive wheels?
Black pins. There's a dirt cheap.
Alright, black pins are pretty, 99% of the time. I'm looking at you, Dylan Toys. Stupid freaking Bricklink set. Let me just take a drink.
Sometimes I think there should be a cap on how expensive you can make some pieces. Brick should not be $2.
What I hate about the people on Bricklink who put one listing for really expensive is they throw off the average. And then the average goes up, and then everybody starts putting the new price as the average, and then that slowly makes the average go up just a little bit more. And then like all the cheap ones go, and then the average, and it's like, ugh. I've had this lately with, there was something we were looking at. I know that was kind of being the biggest problem. But interesting enough, though, certain high profile things have gone down in price almost. Specifically Greedo. Because Greedo as a minifig from Star Wars only came out originally in a 2004 set, Mos Eisley and Cantina, and they hadn't released that fig for, I don't know, like 12 plus years, something like that. So it was the only version of Greedo for a while. He had turquoise, which was a discontinued color. He had his legs, his arms were printed and in a color that wasn't common. So not only was he like a high profile, like a rare character, he had rare parts, and the fact that he had the printed arms, like just made him to be. So typically, I remember in the day, like he would be like $75. Like he was pretty commonly $75. But when they started releasing more Greedos, he actually went down to like 40s and 30s, which is when I bought mine.
Did his price go down even more when Turquoise was re-released?
I don't think so. I don't think Turquoise really
Because I know you
affected
can get
it.
Turquoise hands in a new set, I think.
Now, the opposite to that for figs that I have on, where they gone much more expensive, which is my most expensive minifig, arguably the most expensive minifig in the family, is from the theme Rock Raiders, the Chief. Now, last I checked, he was going for about $200 to $300. Like the only one in Brooklyn was about $200 to $300, and his set was like, I don't think there was any sets of him for sale. Like it was really just minifig. Even his parts go for like 100. Like a head might go for $100 or 70. He got really expensive. Now, want to know how much I got my first one for? I got his set sealed for $10, and that was like in 2010. No,
About 10 years
no, no,
ago.
no, 2000. About 2010, because that's when Power Mars roughly was out.
Mhm.
So about 10 years ago. So in that 10 years, he went from going from about like, being like an above average price minifig, because I remember when I bought his set sealed, the minifig was worth more than his set sealed, because his minifig was about $15 minimum, while the set I bought sealed for $10. So he has skyrocketed the price, and I even got a second copy of him like 2 years ago, which at the time I thought, oh, I might have been spending a little bit much on those minifig packs. Then I checked Bricklink like a year later, and I was like, you know what? I got a good deal. So I own two of a fig who that worth arguably, like at least last I checked, was around like $200 to $300. He might have gone down.
You have two Chiefs?
Yep.
Oh.
Well, basically at BrickCon I had gone the 3 minifig packs in like a single bundle. I only got the box to the one set, so I only have. But I got a second Chief, and I was like, oh, this is nice. So he's actually just in a display case. And then I realized how expensive he was. I'm like, yeah, I'm never getting rid of this Chief. No one's touching him. So
He's your retirement fund.
he's my retirement fund. And, just seeing, and I'm curious to see whether or not his price will go up or down, because one key thing about this minifig, which was similar to Greedo, was he had turquoise. He was the only fig for a long time who only had a turquoise left arm, and he was one of two minifigs who had a turquoise hand, Greedo being the other. Now, since Trolls had a theme and turquoise came back as a color, turquoise arms and hands are popping up here,
Available
are
again.
popping up here and there. So okay, turquoise is not the thing, but we'll see whether or not the character of Chief, just the minifig, the nostalgia for Rock Raiders, will keep that minifig as a high profile. And I have a suspicion he's not going to get much cheaper. He might go down to like maybe $100, but I can see him always being like now basically a highly sought after minifig.
It's not going down to the levels that my dear Onvermel bought it 10 years ago.
Oh, that was the best deal ever.
Well, sometimes reintroducing an element can make it go down. Because they've reintroduced turquoise into the collection of Lego, I'm pretty sure it's rekindled the desire to create Rock Raider mocks, so it's made him a higher commodity.
Okay, funny thing about the Rock Raider mock thing is, like, I swear, Rock Raider mocks, when it got to the 10th anniversary, was when I had the mock shown on the Brothers Brick. And there was another mock that was shown on the Brothers Brick a bit later, and I swear around that same time, Rock Raiders became a bit more noticed, and like the prices went up.
That was approximately the 20-year anniversary of Rock Raiders too.
Well, they mentioned in the post, so I'm just gonna claim that my mock helped make Rock Raiders a bit more expensive.
Who knew we were trendsetters? And by we, I mean him.
Oh, I knew I was a trendsetter. I'm totally a trendsetter. I'm like that type of guy. It's amazing.
Yeah, you
This
set
is-
trends and I end them.
So, but so it's like definitely the Okay, we also kind of like just heard this weird vehicle. I
I
think.
think I heard aliens
I
whispering
know.
to us.
We all heard something from outside the apartment.
Sounded
So,
like it came from the fridge, honestly.
but it's like there's the thing about expensive Lego parts is like for me it's always been collecting. At least for Bionicle. Bionicle, for whatever reason, I'm willing to spend a lot more. Probably because I'm just sad and I mean I'm not like regretting these purchases, but man, are they worth a lot.
You've committed to this collecting, and
Yeah.
at this point, it's like it's too late to turn back now.
Actually, that's a good point. I started when things weren't that expensive, and I was able to get most of it. But now that
moved on to the expensive
basically
ones.
by the time I've already committed to it, and now things are like getting out of hand. And that's another thing. Like about things I'm really glad I got ahead of time was the Gen 2 sets, because those are all worth easily double retail now.
It's actually really funny. When we were getting our mask first introduced to Bricklink and getting our mask, I think that was literally like our first thought with Bricklink and when our availability. Like, Remember, like, masks, I think were like $5. Like, oh, that's a lot of money for one mask.
I believe the gold masks were often like gold and like house would often be like $5 on a Bricklink site. Like the more expensive Bricklink sites would have them for about $5. Nowadays, that's a dirt cheap one.
That's comically cheap now. It's like $5 for that mask? Heck yeah.
Like if I see a mask that's like under $7 for like, collecting like the mask set variations of colors, that's a good deal. And I always consider picking it up. Back in the day though, that was like, spend like also, the Canadian, like also the dollar has not changed a little bit in value, but I'm pretty sure it hasn't tanked that bad where stuff that used to be, $5 are now like 30, $40. Well, depends what you're looking at. But it's just like also, as we got older, we have more money, and we've even like the thing is, it wasn't even like that I had a job that made me start spending more. It was more so I just gradually started spending more like on a single part because when I first moved out, I was not spending $20 on a single mask. The only masks that I'd be willing to spend that much at the time was like the yellow cow. And even then I was waiting until it got like really cheap. And even when I bought it for $70, I was like, I'm not gonna mention this to like I was like I'm gonna keep it how much I spent to this probably around siblings a little quieter because I feel like everybody like Paul, you're just wasting your money. I look now, the mask is worth like $300 almost now.
I don't think you waste your money. I'm just sad I don't have one.
Yeah, no, I definitely didn't waste it.
Should have got one when I had the chance.
I should have gotten two. I think the site had two of them when I bought it too.
And resell
But-
3 times the initial price.
Funny thing, see, the reverse side of this though is there's one reason why I really like shopping at thrift stores because when you get Lego at a thrift store, typically, I mean they've gone a little bit more wise and realized that Lego's worth a little bit more, so they're not as cheap as they used to. But sometimes you can get some really good deals.
Bionicles, like, you really haven't wised up yet either, so sometimes you find some good stuff in a random bag of Bionicles.
That is true. Like I know I got a bag of Bionicles that basically had like a few Nuva variation color masks, and the bag was like $5, and I got like a couple of those, and then any bag with classic space, you're basically getting your money's worth like almost right away.
Good thing Bionicles haven't been on shelves for a while. People don't actually realize quite often that they are in fact Lego.
That comes down to them not looking like Lego, which for us is great because not always. Sometimes the Bionicle bags are also more expensive for some reason, but I think that's because people just see. Some people might realize that it actually is Lego and be like, well, it's a Lego and it looks very specialized. Let's mark it up. But you can get some really good stuff, and like even I know we've gone like Krana, Kanoe masks. I think I even got a disc one time. And
I recently just found at a Salvation Army a good chunk of Hydraxin, and he had his mask, and that bag was only $6, and the mask goes for 3 times that.
Really?
Actually, more like 4 times that. The cheapest is $22 on Bricklink. So yeah, I don't know why Hydraxin's mask got so expensive on Bricklink, but it just kind of did. Like, I think it's just because Hydraxin has become a more high-profile set. Maybe? I don't know.
I mean, in my professional and personal opinion, Hydraxin is probably in like the top 5 best Titan / Warrior sets.
See, I've been trying to figure out why his mask got expensive. I feel like it just came down to people like the mask. They bought all the cheap ones. The only ones that were left for sale were expensive ones. So when people put new ones on the site, they were looking, okay, what's the average or what the minimum? And they kind of based it on that. So it's just kind of left with expensive ones.
Is there a little polybag that has that set?
Yeah, but that's like very, very
Oh yeah, that became very popular, you know? People just realized, I want that polybag!
Well, that's one reason why I want one. I still need that mask.
That's
for the
why
polybag.
I'm keeping that mask,
Actually,
and Onvermel
technically-
here's not getting it for his little polybag, because I'm keeping it for my little.
I can
Good guy,
technically
bad guy.
spare one.
See, the thing is, I missed it. The only reason why I didn't get this bag because there was a dad with his kid kind of in the way. So I was just being polite. And this thrift store, there's almost never Lego. So I'm like, I'm not going to bother. There's probably not going to be there. And I'm going to be polite and not squeeze by him. And then this son of a connects, sees it and beelines it and gets the bag. And I'm like, you son of a... I was very salty for about a good 20 minutes. I mean, only like 10 minutes. I was already happy because I did at least get a...
I did share some of the bag with him.
He did, and I thank you for this. And you also did let me get the blue Roxy canister, so that helped with my collecting. So I only need one more Roxy canister for that collection. So actually that was just a good day for Bionicle because we went to 2 thrift stores and found 3 things Bionicle. We found a movie, a set in the canister, and a bag of like half complete sets, which was pretty
We
nice.
didn't need the movie because he already had like
Well,
2
okay,
copies of it.
I wasn't sure if I had 2. because I have them in two spaces. I have them on my movie shelf, and then I have my Bionicle room. But I already had two of them, so now I have three of them, and I don't regret this. So, yes. Now, is this frivolous spending money? Maybe a little bit. But I didn't spend a lot on it.
Yeah, that thrift store has stuff for pretty darn cheap.
But that's the nice thing about, like, thrift stores, friends. You find sometimes parts that could be really expensive. Like, actually, very, very recently, I was in the Valley Village in Red Deer, and I found a bag and some parts. It was a very weird looking bag. Actually, I have a picture of it, so it should be on screen. But in that bag, there is basically an R2 unit with green printing. Now that only came in one set, a larger Republic cruiser, and I remember it being a fairly expensive minifig back in the day, and
About $15, I think.
it was about $15. Like I think before it was like 20 something. It hasn't gone down much. It's kind of just plateaued.
So
But still, it was just in a bag, and it was just like this rare minifig, and I'm like, sweet. And the bag was like $5, and I got like essentially some stuff that was like 3 times that. So I was like, sweet. And then plus all these other free parts, which was great. And because of that droid minifig, I was able to trade it to a Zactaf for some lovely Krata. So thank you for that. Yeah, specifically for he got something green, his favorite color. I got something purple, my favorite color.
I technically, according to Bricklink, got the better end of the deal, but we all know Paul winning over the last purple to complete a collection of 6 was definitely, in his mind, the better deal.
There was no Blacktron, so I was not involved.
Purple's always a better deal. I was gonna come for the Dark Cowboys and just went away. I'm like, okay, well, that's not working. But like, I think the other those stuff. Typically, you're always going to get a good deal. The best deals are when you get classic space, typically, because you actually get rare stuff. But like I said, also sometimes we have gone sealed stuff, which also a really good deal. And that's one reason why I really do like either like thrift store finds and such, because you often can get good deals, or even if you go find like vendors at conventions who just have like loose parts, you can find some pretty good stuff. That's usually for people who just like, it's just not worth their time to shuffle through everything.
With the right vendor, you can find some good stuff.
I mean, we did find like one vendor at BrickCon who basically had like selling two masks for $5, and we got some copper masks in there, which are worth like $10 now.
A lot of copper masks.
Well, I got 2. You got 1. I think everyone in the there was 4 of us in the Bionicle group. We all got at least 1. I got 2.
And
7 masks.
from what I heard, if you know the right vendors and you have certain skills, you can just get a good deal.
I mean, that is very true too. So
haggling is a good thing.
But the thing is, because we're also, BrickCon
Execs.
Attendees, the vendors always generally going to get the attendees, a little bit, because it's like it's Lego fans helping Lego fans. There's always a discount for that. Well, 90%. There was not one vendor who wouldn't budge about the plume.
Let's also be honest.
The dragon plume. You only had $1.75 on you. It was $2.
Let's be honest, Paul. As a Lego fan, and I'm only going to attend this as a attendee, I'm going to be displaying. I'm the target demographic for these Legos they're selling. I am going to, if I can get a better deal on this, I'm going to buy more from your vendor.
But it's just the kind of like, the camaraderie of what you get with vendors. Like, if you're a guy showing something, they're there to make money. There's that camaraderie, It's like,
and if you give me a good deal, I'll buy
like the
more
random
from you.
schmuck. There's the random schmuck prize, but then there's the attendee price. Essentially, have a lot of people put, and then a lot of times it'd be like, one is like, it's like, okay, this is $10. How about 2 for 15? I think you did that for the mask sets.
I like vendors. They're just chock full of all the Lego I want to still buy. I won't go on my way to buy it, but if it's put there in front of me, like, ooh, look at this, and ooh, look at this. That's the only reason I want to go to BrickCon again, the vendors.
But a lot of times, people have these big buckets of loose parts. You shuffle through them because, it's just a big parts for you to look through. And sometimes you find some pretty decent stuff, that are worth, like, hey, this is worth several bucks.
That plume did weird one anyways.
I think it was just a dragon plume that was...
Blue, red, white.
I don't remember. That was like 3 years ago. But, we're probably going to cut that quits for the day. Yeah, Lego can be really expensive sometimes, and we're the idiots who buy it. But at the same time, Eck, you're also one of the idiots or the geniuses who sell it for expensive prices. What can I say? He's got a Bricklink store, so he's part of the problem.
It's currently closed, but I do set it at good prices, but not great prices.
I'm not gonna apologize for that.
Buy his merch.
Yes, buy his merch. Buy his merchandise. Yeah. Yeah. So expensive Lego. I would not. I would not suggest buying crazy expensive. I would not suggest buying $7 red lift arms. We'll just say that. That is the almost overpriced purchase. So don't do it. Don't be me. But if you guys want to give me free Lego, anyone just want to give me free Lego, I will gladly take it. Or give it to me for a good price. I'll probably buy it.
But if you're mailing it to the podcast, it has to be divvied up appropriately.
We don't have a PO box. So thank you everybody for listening. Please subscribe or wait for more or push that bell. Little ding ding.
And now I'm gonna go buy myself
So-
a Chrome How.
Yeah, everybody. See you next time, and we are retiring from the night.